every pony. I've had a good night's sleep, and I'm ready to get back into this. And I'm definitely getting the hang of recording, and the audio on this story is already sounding a little better than last time. So yeah, show goes on, part 2. Let's do it. Octavia opened her eyes, turning to the other band members with an approving smile, before moving to place the cello on its stand. Silver was still busy picking his jaw up from off the floor. The band members placed their instruments away and began melting into what was left of the crowd. After their performance, many attendants had started to leave, but there were still enough guests to mingle with. Silver didn't really like crowds that much anyways. He returned to the kitchen one last time to check for orders, where he found the head cook, Gourmet. "Any orders?" Silver asked her, and she smiled at him. "There's nothing much left, and I've already got the other waiters working on it. Why don't you take the rest of the night off, Silver?" Silver grinned, giving her a thank you before turning and trotting out to the main room. He swept his turquoise eyes across the vast quickly, spotting Octavia standing nonchalantly beside a table of drinks. Silver started strolling up to her confidently. "Come on, I can do this." He began slowing down as he drew closer, biting his lower lip. "No, don't get nervous now. You're so close." Silver meekly trotted to where Octavia was standing and poured himself a drink of whatever it was that was in these bottles. The gray mare was sipping on her own drink, gazing around the room with those amazing eyes. "Here's my chance. Just say something." "Hey there," Silver said, trying to make his voice falter as little as possible. Octavia glanced over, looking directly at Silver for the first time. He froze instantly, which was at least a step up from shaking.
"Oh, hello," she replied. "Enjoying the party?"
Yeah, it's everything I was expecting. For better or for worse."
"First time at the gala?"
"Mm-hmm," Silver responded before adding quietly, "if working here counts."
"You work here?"
Yeah, I'm a waiter," Silver explained.
"Oh, really?"
Octavia gave a little chuckle. "Believe me, I'm the best waiter in Equestria."
"A humble title, to be sure,"
she said with a small smile before sighing and taking another sip of the drink. "Something wrong?" Silver asked in concern.
"No, it's just, it takes a lot out of you to play on stage like that."
"Well, if it makes you feel any better, that was the greatest playing I've ever heard. I really mean that," Silver replied with a grin. Octavia gave him a thankful smile, taking a sip of the drink. Silver tried a little sip, but immediately regretted it. Whatever this stuff was, it was strong. Too strong for him, at least.
"So, may I ask your name?"
Octavia asked, turning to Silver. Her cheeks were starting to turn a bit red. "Silver."
"Silver, that's a nice name," she replied, making him blush. "I'm Octavia."
The two of them stood together in silence for a moment. Not an awkward silence, but a thoughtful one. "So, Octavia, how long have you been playing?"
"Oh, since I was a little filly. I came from a musical family, so I've been playing ever since I learned to hold a bow. My sister was always so good with the violin," she replied, trailing off. Her eyes drifted over the crowd for a moment, before quickly shifting focus back to Silver with a smile. "How about you? Have you been carrying trays your whole life?"
"Yes, actually," Silver grinned. "My parents owned a restaurant here in town, still do, and always said I would make a great waiter one day. I guess they were right."
"Sounds like an exciting life,"
Octavia said flatly. "Yeah, nothing's more interesting than carting around dishes all day," Silver huffed, making Octavia giggle. The sound made Silver's heart flutter. Octavia took a swig of the drink, shuddering slightly for a moment. Silver was pretty sure that if he drank that much in one swallow, he would be dead in 10 seconds flat. Octavia let out a deep breath, her cheeks growing even rosier. She shifted uncomfortably, glancing over at Silver.
"Is it just me, or is it really hot in here?"
she asked. She looked right into Silver's eyes before glancing him up and down quickly, and smiled slightly.
"Hey, you want to go for a walk?"
His mind was screaming at him to accept, and he managed to squeak, "Sure." Octavia set the drink down and beckoned for him to follow, the two of them trotting out of the palace and into the night. The night air was pleasantly cool, sweeping over the quiet streets of nighttime Canterlot. After all his years here, Silver still couldn't get over the beauty of the city at night. The empty roads, the shining stars, the soft street lights, and the glowing moon. From the upper rings of the city, one could look off the balconies over the whole of Equestria. Silver and Octavia walked for a long time, sometimes talking and sometimes merely enjoying the moment in silence. Silver was merely following Octavia where she went, and eventually they passed a building that Silver found familiar. He stopped for a moment, looking at the restaurant, La Battaglia de Rosario. It was closed for the night.
Something wrong?
Octavia asked, moving up beside him. He stood for a moment before looking at her with a smile. It's nothing, I used to work there. Feels like a long time ago. I'm only 21 and already feeling nostalgic. Is that normal?
I know what you mean,
Octavia replied with a sad smile. The two of them stared at the little restaurant for a moment longer, before turning away and continuing down the road. Silver couldn't explain why this life satisfied him. Most people would hate living a life where you simply served a bunch of snobby nobles, but Silver was content with it, particularly in finding what small amount of fun could be had. Canterlot scared many young, fun-loving ponies away with its prudishness, but inside there was a sort of magic to the place. Before Silver could think any further, Octavia came to a halt in front of a large, fancy-looking apartment building.
Well,
she said, turning to him,
I wasn't really sure where to walk, so I guess I'm back home again. I suppose the others will have to bring me my cello. Whoops.
All right then, Octavia, Silver replied. Octavia turned and began trotting towards the doors of the apartment building before stopping and facing him.
You coming?
She asked, her lips curling into a smile.
Wait, what? I mean...
Silver stammered before Octavia cut him off.
Just follow me,
she said before turning and trotting inside. Silver obeyed speechlessly, following Octavia as she led him through the very well-kept lobby, up a sizable flight of stairs, and down an embroidered hallway. This was certainly a high-class apartment. The two of them reached a door, and Octavia pulled the key from her collar, unlocking the door to her apartment room, and the two of them stepped inside. The apartment was mostly one very large decorative room with a kitchenette, master bed, and a bathroom off to the side. Octavia trotted to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of wine.
You want a glass?
She asked, glancing over at Silver, who was still rather dumbfounded by the entire situation. No thanks, he stuttered. Octavia trotted up beside and took a seat on the bed, gesturing for Silver to sit beside her. The two of them began talking idly, Silver growing less and less nervous over time, which soon led to deep conversation. Octavia talked about her life growing up in Canterlot, and Silver talked about his own, which led to discussion of classical music and the art of being a waiter. It was a long time until Silver noticed a picture frame on a shelf nearby, holding a picture of a younger-looking Octavia, an older buck and mare, and another mare, slightly younger than Octavia, who looked quite similar to her sister. Octavia noticed Silver observing the image.
My family portrait,
she said solemnly. Your sister? Silver asked, gesturing to the younger mare. Octavia nodded. She looks a lot like you.
Yeah,
Octavia replied, bowing her head.
She did.
Octavia made a choking sound before Silver noticed her shaking. Octavia.
I'm sorry, it's just...
Octavia looked up at him, tears in her eyes.
My sister, she died 3 years ago. I miss her so much.
Octavia began sobbing, and Silver wrapped his hooves around her. Don't be sorry, it's going to be okay, Silver said in a comforting tone. He had never had siblings, but he could imagine how painful it must be to lose one. Octavia looked up into his eyes.
No, it's not. I never spent enough time with her. My parents, they had always babied her, and I had been so jealous. And then she got sick, and I never had a chance to tell her I was sorry.
Octavia sputtered, weeping. Silver held her tightly with his hooves, firmly gazing into her eyes. You can't regret the past like this. I'm sure she would have forgiven you, but you can't think about how things could have gone differently. You should remember the good times you had together and keep her in your heart. You can't heal if you can't move on. Octavia just looked at him for a long time, her eyes glowing like 2 pools of liquid amethyst, wiping the tears away and trying to collect herself.
Thank you.
Then, completely taking Silver by surprise, she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his, her cheeks blushing red. Okay, I think this might be a good place to stop, and I hope you're all enjoying this so far. and I'll be finishing this one up next time, so this will end up a solid 3 parts. So, thanks again for listening, and until then, take care.